Hey, Epic Gamer here. Okay, hi people. So today is gonna be a pretty interesting stream. We're literally going to like take scratch sound effects, like default scratch sound effects from the website Scratch, and turn them into terrifying screaming sound effects. Because it's actually really easy to do. Hey, hi, hi. I don't even know how to pronounce your name. Artisol? Oh, yes, I agree. But here, let me show you. Let me show you what I mean. So like, here's, here's, heyo, hello, Pew. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. P-U, just hi gaming. I don't know. Pew fan gaming, is that how you'd say it? Wait, is that, what? Wait, it's that? Okay, but guys, so, oh, never mind. What? Okay, whatever. I guess, so see, guys, so here's the original sound effect. Yes, very weird. Hi, Dad. Okay. So here is the original sound effect. And here is the very edited version. I mean, like, it really just speaks for itself, honestly. You can literally do this to the sound effects using Scratch's tools only. Like, here's this. Okay. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna plug in my headphones, honestly. So, when you step on a Lego, yeah, okay, that's pretty good, actually. Okay, so, yeah, I'm just gonna, 1 second, let me make sure the audio is right. So, yep, okay, we're good, so. Ow. Yeah, this is gonna hurt everybody's eardrums. It's like, here's this. Here's this. It's honestly terrifying. Like, here's... And this one is 30 seconds. All of them sound pretty similar. That sounds like the Oh Yeah, Mr. Krabs scream. Honestly. Hang on.
Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
Kinda. Hang on. Duplicate. Oh. Oh yeah. Okay, let's speed it up. See if this works. That's literally it! Am I talking loud? I can't tell! Yeah. These sounds make me feel like, Okay. That's literally it, though. Okay, there you go. Perfection. Okay. Then we got this. Half of these just seem like the Oh Yeah, Mr. Krabs sound. Like scream. God, it's terrifying though. How could you screw this one up? Now this one isn't as much. It's just really weird. Kinda makes it feel really uncomfortable. Okay, now here we go again. Yes, use this. Let's use this. So what you do... You make it really loud. You slow it down. And then you robot it. Takes 2 seconds to do the robot effect. does that sound? That's terrified my sleep paralysis demon since 3 a.m. And then you make it louder again. Hmm? Hello? Okay, how about we make speed up? That's pretty creepy. Let's get the original sound so we can compare it. Okay, that changes too. Hello. Yes, hi. We're making terrifying stuff. Bubbles. How bad could this get? Fly, hello, thanks. Thanks? What is it? How long is it now? This one's gotta be weird. Okay, I've roboted it enough, I think. Oh my god! That's like good ambient sound. Okay, this one is not yet good. What was that one? Oh my god, no. Hmm. Making this even worse. Doing the steps all over again. Oh my god, it's 128 seconds. I know, I heard Zodiac was hacked. I heard that. Oh god, no, it won't stop. Shit. Well... Save the project so I can quit out, please. Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, that subtitle's screaming. Deaf people. Play me out. How could this get bad? The FBI is coming to find your computer now? Oh, that's epic. Like that. Okay, it still just sounds like music. You can't really do too many music ones. This is perfect. That already sounds like screaming. Music kinda is. Yes, gold shear. Wacky. Yes. Max volume. Jet, you ruined Yatagarasu with your Nerf gun. Oh shit. God. That's perfect. Transforms into. What the heck? It feels like we're like finding subliminal messaging and shit. Like this is creepy. Transforms into. There's 12 seconds of screaming. Transforms into. Bruh. Yes, this is a bruh moment. This one we get more wacky. Oh, yes. Yes. Max volume. There, I had to. Let's make it worse. Eh. When you step on Lego. Yes. Oh, that worked. Okay. Let's not do that one then. Yes, not Mario coin sound. Your mom be gay. Okay, that's a good name, but bruh, I agree. That is indeed a bruh moment. Yes, my favorite coin sound. Where the frick is it? Effects. No, you. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Cloud boom be like. Gold shear be like. A clown or not be like. The moment when you turn a random sound into a Pokemon cry. Yeah, really. How could we mess up the birthday song? Bye, okay. Oh god. Going all the way, boys. This makes me want to commit bro sound effect number 2. Couldn't agree more. I don't think I can go even slower. I think I broke it. By the way, let's robot it. All the way, boys. What? I crashed the- oh, never mind. Oh no. Make all of them the sounds of Sonic and GT. Yeah. I don't like it. Yes. Yes. Oh my god. Here we go. What if I created? What have I done? Isn't animals? Because yes. My soul hurts? I agree. Okay. Let's record our own sound. La. Oh, that's useful. It automatically trims it for you.
La.
What?
La.
Yes, good recording. Oh my god. Why? What happened there? I hit manage. What have I done? Okay, there, window settings. Is that what health sounds like? Probably. Let's go to webcam because that's a better mic. Okay. No, I thought I saw sex there. Ah! Okay, that's 2. Why is it so weird? Okay, let's skip bro sound effect number 2. Probably already have it on my computer, but I'm just gonna download it again. Nah, here. This is giving me more flashbacks. Oh. For a moment. Okay, I don't actually think I have bro sound. I'm on Scratch? Okay, this is epic. Okay, well, dude, so... Oh, here's this.
Bruh.
So, yes, I remember when someone screamed law and I died. Okay, dude, so get ready. So, this dude, Travis Game Maker. So, here's a normal Scratch sound effect. And here is it heavily modified, using Scratch's tools only. Here's this. Here's this. It's honestly great. Oh yeah, Clown Hawk is great. Just yeah, I know, it's terrifying. Yeah. It feels like we're like finding subliminal messaging or some shit, but not really. We're literally just we're just heavily modifying it so much that we're like, no. Okay, let's upload a sound. So it's just called bro sound effect number 2. So let's get this. Bro sound effect number 2. Hell sound effect number 2. Yeah, the trees are speaking. Okay, great.
Bruh.
Okay, let's trim this first.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh.
I like this sound effect better. Okay, here we go. So first you gotta ear-rape it to extremes. Louden it up until like it's completely ear-rape. Like that. And then you gotta slow it down. And then you gotta robot it. Oh, it is a good one. And then you gotta loud in it again. And just like that, hell sound effect number 2. I have 30% on WoW. That's cool. Ugh. Screech from Hell that was originally bro sound effect number 2. Good subtitles. Also, yeah, I kind of made Oh Yeah, Mr. Krabs scream from Cave. Okay, not that cave. This cave, okay. Kind of sounds like it, like, you know, like... Okay, not really at all, but, you know.
Crabs.
Yes. What if you turn bro sound effect 2 into a hell sound effect? Well, that's exact. When you turn. I thought you said how about you do that. That's like, I literally just did that. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. Yeah, that's a dead meme, whatever. Fairy dust. Yes. Cuts off so weird. Ow. Already sounds like a scream, but let's make it more like one. Only after a day of practicing, I have 56% blue health. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let me get the original. I heard that. Hey, bass. Yes. Yes. It's 29 seconds now. I'm going to get brain damage for all this eventually. Yeah, pretty much. Headphones probably not recommended, even though I'm wearing them. Like, you know, just yeah. The pillow. It's like, ugh. This one is 60 seconds, by the way. Don't they have a really long one, I think? There's like a really long one. It's like 2 minutes. No, I don't think I do. Oh, here's an 80-second one. Donald Duck's Screech of Fear and Pain. Can you read saying you're breathtaking? Okay, I'll just search this up to be honest. Wake up, samurai. We got a city to burn. What the hell is this? Okay. Here.
There, I'm walking the streets of the future. is really going to be breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
Where the frick is just the clip?
Tell you.
Clip. Here's you're breathtaking. God damn it! Just give me the one clip. Okay, fine.
The feeling of being there, of what is really going to be breathtaking.
Okay, there's a better one. Where the frick was it? Me trying to find a good clip of your breathtaking.
The feeling of being there, of walking.
There. Officially your breathtaking guy.
There, of walking
Oh god, what have I
into the
done?
future is really going to be breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
Red Dead Redemption, more like Red Dead Rejection, am I right? Okay. Yeah, that too. Okay. Oh no. Here we go. Official, you're breathtaking, boy. Okay, here we go. Oh wait, don't choose. Okay, so it's called official, so we gotta go down to O's there. Okay. Okay, here, we'll trim it out here.
You're breathtaking!
Okay, here it is.
You're breathtaking!
Okay.
You're breathtaking! You're breathtaking!
Okay. Oh god. Okay, it is a pretty good one. Okay, that's a pretty good one. You're breathtaking. Yeah, that's a different one. I like it. Oh my god. Back? Okay. Well, here's this. We got the You're Breathtaking. So here's the original. Oh, wait, I need to trim it, yeah.
You're breathtaking!
Okay, this is the original. And here's this. I'm gonna... What? What are you gonna... I'm finna... Put a link here? Okay, I need to make you a mod for a second to do that. But lag? But lag? What do you mean? Holy... What?
You're breathtaking!
Okay, you got the link? Oh, okay, it's lag. Okay, I get it. Okay, cool. So now I'll demod you because, yeah. Sorry. Just need to make you mod so you can send a link. Oh god, what? No.
Okay, go.
Shit, I need to bring back this again. Shit. Fuck. You're breathtaking. When you're so breathtaking, you fucking die. Yeah, I agree. Okay, here it is. I've seen this. I remember.
Okay, go. Okay, do it. Green Hill? More like Sand Hill.
Okay. So, go commit die in go commit die in a trash can. Stupid go commit die in my trash can. Okay. Well, I want to introduce you to OMG, you just posted cringe. Okay, so here's Ba. And here's it heavily modified using only Scratch's auditory editing software. You're going to lose subscriber. I genuinely thought it was going to be a racist joke. Okay. Okay, so are you saying I should react to this, or should I make it hell-like? I really don't know which one. Oh no, please. No racist, yeah, please. Okay, now, green. I just need green. Give me green. Where's green? There it is.
Okay, go.
Okay, trim it up.
More like Sand. Green Hill? Green Hill?
Okay, that's good. And then we'll duplicate here. So then...
Green Hill? Green Hill?
Do I watch Skeppy? No.
Green Hill?
I don't think so. Maybe I'm dumb, though. Yeah. Maybe? No, I don't watch him out think. No. I was just thinking maybe as... Yeah. Yeah, I'll watch it. Green Hill. Yes, this is...
Green Hill?
Goes into... Green Hill sound effect number 2.
You're breathtaking.
Oh no. Oh no, I did it again. I did it again. Shit. Fuck. You're breathtaking. You're breathtaking. Watch this. Skip and Skippy can make you laugh, I promise. Shit.
Poop Japanese symbol. Poop Japanese symbol. Poop server. When I see balls, you know it's about you.
No.
Said it. There's a recording of you saying it.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is.
There's a
Trust me,
recording of
there's
me
about to be.
There better not be.
There's about to be.
No, there's a recording of me saying I don't love McDonald's cheesy fries. There's not one of me saying, oh, I like McDonald's cheesy fries. I love McDonald's cheesy fries.
I don't get it. Okay. Poop server. It's not that funny. I'm sorry. I just can't. Bruh. Server. Also, just 2 seconds of silence in this one. Fairy dust. Fairy dust. And GD be like.
Green Hill?
Green Hill? I'm gonna say the frick word. Oh no. I'm gonna say it.
Green Hill?
When you fail to impress Jet, F. Honestly, I'm sorry. Ah. I mean, like, yeah, it's just a McDonald's joke. Haha, funny. Haha, yeah. He bruh.
Green.
Bruh. Bruh.
Green Hill? More like Green Hell. Okay, that's actually pretty good. I do like that. That is a good pun. Ha. My ears are crying. Yeah, that's an intended side effect. Let's just do more of these. Here's some favorite sound. Yes, sports. This will be good. Watch the whole thing to understand a cheesy fry meme. If you like screaming, etc., watch this. Oh, Jesus.
Yo, how's it going, guys? Welcome to a video. So obviously, I'm gonna say that I don't know what's going on because I don't know what's going on. But
That's a good profile picture, but no. I'm not gonna watch a 12-minute video on stream. Yeah, and also all of their, I mean, like, maybe it's just a coincidence, but to be honest, with the first 3 comments being anime girl, I'm going to guess they are weebs. And, well, that's completely, oh god. That's completely fine with me. I actually really like that without even slowing it down. That sounds really nice. As in terrifying. YouTube won't load the stream on mobile. Heck F. Stream sniping ninja in Minecraft, not clickbait in the hood. It's DD. What? I kinda like this one. This is like, ah! Like, I don't know. Just, never mind. Yes, it does sound like, ah. Tunnels fucking dies. No. Subscribed. Hey, Fitatvi? Okay, anyway, so, pretty much, let me explain the stream to you. So here's a ba. Not like a Super Mario New Super Ba, but like, he ducking died, I agree. But then, here's a heavily modified, using only... Using only, and so here is a modified sound of this ba. Using only the tools provided here. Yeah? Here's this. And then here's a modified version. Yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah. Here's...
Green Hill.
Yes, 10 out of 10, I agree. Well, okay, that sounds like I'm really full of myself. There's that. There's that. That's the sound effect that I like to hear. I really like that one. That was pretty good. I'm proud of that one. Green Hill. Green Hill? Ah! Yeah. Yes. This one is. Oh my god. Oh no, the title. Yeah. You'll see. So, let me explain. Here is a boss sound effect, not new Super Ba, but like Sheet Ba. Oh no. Here we go. Rickrolled. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good comment. Okay. So yeah, that's what the stream is. Yeah, this turns into this. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Plays Seinfeld theme using pitch blocks? Using pitch blocks and the bass A bass sound effect. Yeah. Yeah, I'll try and do this. Yes. Okay, notes. Oh, that's too low. No, it's lower. Oh no. It's a Discord. Use this now. Yes. Yes. Turn Minecraft theme to the hell blocks on. Yes. I know, I got it. I'm gonna use that. I am going to use that. Change thumbnail. Wee. It's called Image 0. I didn't have baldies there, I swear. Shit. Fuck. Okay, there you go. There you go. Thumbnail's updated to this. Can you invite me into that Discord? Here. I'll just talk with you only. Okay, anyway. How you doing?
Okay, well,
Yes.
I guess. Look in Discord. Why is he spamming look in Discord?
I don't know. I already looked.
Discord. Look in Discord. Discord.
Yes, I already did. It's
Discord.
literally right here. I already used it! You
Discord.
bruh! Fiscore! Fiscore.
Okay,
Yeah.
now it's just Discord.
Tasty.
Fiddlecore.
Okay, I think he's joking at this point. Okay, what sound
Yeah.
effect next? By the way, you can send sound effects to me if you want that I'll use.
Alright.
And it'd be even better if you can have them trimmed already to like the point that you want. Yes, crazy laugh. Oh no. Here we go. I already did that, actually. I literally already did, bro. Sound effect number 2. Let me show you.
I bet you did.
Yeah. Let me show you. So here's...
Bruh.
That's bro. Okay, well, you'll see later. In just a second. I'll listen to the entirety. There it is. There's bro sound effect number 2. What about hamburger? Oh, yeah.
It sounds like someone is freaking.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the end. It sounds like a Slenderman's.
Yeah.
That's a spook.
Hamburger sound effect.
I like how the last message I sent you was freaking Markiplier crying.
Yeah. Because yes. Okay,
Good morning,
another
Krusty
monitor.
Krab.
Oh no. You have one? Okay, what is this? Yes. Okay, so first we'll do this. First we'll do, what is this? Yeah, we'll do hamburger.
Oh no, YouTube to MP3. Oh no.
Yeah, I am sauce. I am bruh.
No, use it.
Okay, then, yeah. ASMR whipped nay while my parents fight. Oh my god.
Oh my god, I've seen that video. It's so freaking funny.
Sounds
Like,
great.
and his parents are genuinely fighting, though. That's the sad.
Oh
You
my
can just hear them in
god.
the background.
That's... Okay, we're gonna scrap this one. Let's do... So first we have hamburger. Wait, did I already download it? Hang on.
Ham. So, what are the sound effects Snowy's been spamming lately? Because I know he likes doing that.
What do you mean?
You know how he uses clownfish and just spams the living
He
crap out of
actually...
sound
That actually broke for him.
effects. Oh, thank God. The world is balanced.
Wait, what's the coding? Whatever. Here's hamburger.
Hamburger.
Hamburger. Hamburger.
You kind of think.
Hamburger.
Watch some of my short memes. Oh no. When you... Shut up. When you can't bypass... So you edit. That's pretty good. Why did you hashtag? Bruh. Okay, so...
Hamburger. Hamburger. Hamburger.
Oh no.
Uh,
What's this one? Meow.
SFPD!
Oh, yeah.
Meow.
I'm not gonna laugh because that's actually a clip from the movie, so I feel like I shouldn't laugh at it because it's, yeah. You know?
Yeah, why are you sending a clip from the movie, dude? That's just cringe. Like the better one is when he gets freaking shot 12 times.
Yes. Okay, yeah, here's Oof. I already need to get the OG ham. Let me get the OG ham.
1 second.
Okay. Cringe moment. You made a mistake, my friend. A huge mistake. Cringe moment. Oh no.
Hamburger.
What?
What are you doing on Scratch that just freaking does that.
What
Are
am I
you s-
doing?
Are you spamming like oh, you're just
Yeah, I'm
spamming
spamming louder.
make stuff like completely fill.
Yes, Roblox that's sound number 2.
No, you need the not. Oh.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's reverse it. See how it sounds now. And it doesn't really sound like a scream anymore.
Hamburger.
Make 20 variations of oof.
Oh,
No.
no, that's been done. That has been done, and it was very long.
Yes.
You're breathtaking.
You're breathtaking.
Green Hill.
Did you hear my breathing?
Kind of. Hot.
Yes. What?
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 Alert is the weirdest one.
You should do
What is it?
Apple ringtone.
Yes, that one? Or the opening?
That sound.
That one super annoying one?
Yes, the.
Yeah.
When you're trying it, you can snooze it.
Yeah.
Like
Apple
8 times.
ringtone. No, that's not what I want, no. Apple alarm sound, I think that's what it is. Not 10
yes,
hours.
or you know?
No, not that one. This one, hopefully. Not that either. I don't know, but it's not the hedgehog hamburger meme.
Meme ear.
Hamburger.
I'm disappointed in Cut. He used to make quality memes. Now he hamburger with.
Hamburger.
I am disappointed.
You keep cutting out.
Play Roblox
Still the wrong one.
now.
For a moment.
I'm play Roblox now.
Okay.
I screen Roblox.
I feel Skrillex would make a song. That was easy, yeah, pretty much.
Wow. And he'd be able to make a song.
Hamburger.
You just need a. You need to do the
Male deep.
sound.
Aren't funny to me.
He went on Omegle and he got into the TikTok session, and it was just a bunch of girls on their phone making TikTok.
Bro moment. I can't wait to have male deep heavy breathing sound effect on my computer.
And a man's pee-pee. Yes, there was one of those.
What? Oh.
Yes, because it's Omegalol, you know?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm lost.
Yeah.
I am lost.
No, you're not. You lied.
Oh, the thumbnail. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this Instagram? Everyone gangster till Jesus start controlling your car. Of
Okay,
course,
well,
Cody's
male
playing.
deep breathing is too long, so this will just have. So I'll just have to rot on my computer for ages.
You're gonna have to what?
Nothing, bro. Wait, dang, and a hop.
Oh wow, my mind. I'm now hearing it. It is so bad.
Frogs.
That's a pog.
Hamburger.
Watch, I did see both of them. For a moment.
That's a pog, yes. Hamburger. Literally just getting requests from people and making them eerie.
I know, and like terrifying. Hit or miss.
This is a very quality. I have a slight suspicion
I'm
you would
not
get
doing
more
this one.
views. Yeah, I have a slight suspicion you'd get more views if it was a GD level request stream, because
I actually
everybody's like,
would.
play my anime art level.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a bit more than just what you saw. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Nut.
I agree.
I
Hot.
bought a freaking nut button.
It costed money?
Yes, it costed monies.
You've gotta be like a real. I'm so done.
Nut.
Yes, it's a real button.
Oh my god, I want that.
Physical button that says nut, and when you slap it,
Nut.
it says nuts. It's amazing. It was worth $15, and I love it.
$15.
Yes.
Oh my god. Jackson. Like this. Okay, not what I was expecting, but okay. Lad. Anyway, it's time for this. I'm just gonna play this for a second.
Yeah, you're cheating. Your view count is going up just from playing GD.
Damn it. Yes, I am playing GT, please don't.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked in a while, but my little brother destroyed my PC, so now I'm on my Mac.
That's epic. That's epic. Bromo.
Sorry if you hear my phone is glitching. I don't know.
I
Just started
don't
playing
hear it.
Megalovania.
Oh, right. Yes. Could glitch when it just... You know when your phone just starts playing Megalovania?
I have TikTok open just to watch.
You know what? I'll do hee hee. That...
I mean, it was ironic. Now it's unironic entirely, and I hate it. I've uninstalled it 4 times. Gosh, I didn't know a $300 headset would have such a bad microphone.
F.
What do you use?
Like
Snowball?
a $30 headset.
That's a
But my microphone is from a $20 webcam from Best Buy.
Are you serious?
I'm not even shitting you.
That's what you're using to stream?
Yeah.
Why does it sound so good?
I don't know. Why is there a slap in the middle of that? It makes me very uncomfortable. I think it's a snap. I think it's a snap, but whatever.
OMG, so you're
sounds like slapping an ass. Oh my god. Robot time.
Oh my god, the Michael Jackson sound.
Holy shit.
It's sounds so terrifying.
I know. Like, and that just came from literally the same
Dude,
sound.
deteriorating audio is so weird.
Yeah.
You're doing Michael Jackson wrong.
Yeah. Just Michael Jackson creepy pods.
Michael Jackson turns in the woods. Ooh woo. Totally, 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 totally.
I agree. Oh yeah, Zip was really good, I think. We're trying to find Zip.
Cut it. Cut it.
I was like, Zip! And then...
Zip. Freak is that? Zip.
Zip! Michael Jackson plays Bloodlust.
Oh my god, what the heck? Michael Jackson plays Bloodlust, he dies and he screams. I mean, the ear raping on this mic is something.
Something. So good and tasty. E3. Oh, boy, Scott the most video. I don't even care that this is gonna be
Hey y'all, Scott here.
37 minutes. We're watching this on stream. I'm not watching. Wait, why is it so low quality?
Hey y'all, Scott here. I don't know why it's taking me this long to start committing witchcraft, but here we are. I'm gonna try and look into the future and find out what all the E3
The last time I posted on my account thingy was 7 months ago. Oof.
Well,
The weekly is cool
I
for
can
me.
smell virginity and
That's
Todd
a
Howard
very
swearing in the air,
long
so it
time ago,
must
I'd imagine. My daily is
E3 2019
Rip
here, my
Conati,
favorite E3
baby,
of 2019. Going into it.
Okay, I'm not watching this still yet. Make a Discord page from hell. Hell yeah, we're doing this. Oh, is there an MP3? No.
Yeah, by the way, the level did not get deleted either. It has not been deleted.
If you appreciate the effort, join the server. Yes, I appreciate the effort you did to record a single Discord pain sound effect. Very, very hard work you're doing here. Okay, now it's time to, Discord pain from hell.
Bruh.
Oh no, this actually might not work.
Hey, guess what?
God, everybody's gonna check their Discord every single time
Oh my gosh, are you doing the Discord ping sound effect?
Yeah.
Oh no. I am scared.
It's actually
Is
probably...
Genie any good right now?
Kinda. It's already from hell, though. You have a point.
Has Rob Top been up on it? Like, when did he promise the update?
Ages ago, still hasn't came out. Still no
been, like,
real
maybe
information.
2 on his yacht with caviar.
Wait, what?
Loaded rich from all the money he has from GD.
Okay, yeah.
Devs aspire to be or something.
Yeah, also, by the way, I made the Discord ping sound.
Oh no, you did. It just sounds like a scream. What the heck?
Yeah! That from this. Jesus. Yeah, all of them just sound like weird screams. Carve room is really creepy. That too.
The normal Discord sound wave so uniform.
Why does the normal Discord sound like so uniform?
Yeah, the sound wave looks really smooth.
Well, here, it's probably because of the fact that I think Scratch kind of smooths out the sound waves. Like here, let's
they
open it
probably
up.
do.
Let's open it up in Audacity so we can actually see the legit stuff, so it doesn't look like stylized and whatever. Because Audacity looks disgusting, and it kind of makes it look more epic.
Do you like those burps? That sounds how when I get. That's how I sound when I get pinged. Oh God.
Yeah,
I
this
like
is how
his-
this is how the Discord paint sound actually looks. So yeah,
It's still kind of uniform.
yeah,
I like how this guy's name is freaking. He's
yeah.
not gay.
That is pretty good.
And he's got. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, still.
Oh, and he posts like edgy songs on his account.
He does.
Yes, he does.
Okay, I'm kind of curious now. I'm sorry for going into your privacy, but this is what we do. Oh, god damn it.
Was I lying?
This is stupid. Rare song.
Then why is it your profile picture? Dan?
Into the spaceship, a young Dracula fucking all the home.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a dead meme. Then why do you still use it, you cronglian?
Yes, it is, bro.
What the hell is this? Ow. My ear holes.
Hamburger.
Too tired, too changed. Yes, I agree. I am tired, too changed. God Eater, what the freak is this?
You didn't know about God Eater? Look at my new upload. Oh no. Oh
Dude, what is Dancement doing? These are the randomest.
yeah, pretty much. Oh god, anime girl. Shit, fuck. Oh shit, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck.
This is no longer family.
Saved.
Okay.
You saw the banner and you're like, oh no, no.
I shall delete my account. Okay, F.
Oh my god, practice mode song. Hey, you haven't even seen mine. Like, mine's even worse. Here, I'll let you.
I'll let you, bro. 4.
I don't even know what my banner is, actually. What is... Oh, it's just freaking dank in the...
So yeah, basically,
That's old.
am
And it's
called
only a Google
Screenplays
Plus button for a
because I
reason.
wear this mask, and I play a bunch of Mortal Kombat and all games. I play on my YouTube channel, so.
Yes, good music in the background there. You died. Oh, okay. From 3 months ago. Did you like it? Yes, I did like it. That was pretty good. Cool rat. God damn it, I hate you. Okay. Why does it have one to... I've already liked this. What did I put? I probably commented on it.
Yeah, you said this is comedy gold for the You Died. I made that in the Windows editor thing. I didn't even, like, try at all.
What's funny is it actually kind of looks good.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's a pretty good edit of it. Like, it doesn't look that bad. Animaker. Hang on, I'm just gonna do this. I will not look at
Let's see what Jed is commenting. On my illustriously amazing
As a man,
videos.
I can have self-control.
Is in doubt
and
dead?
Self-control is what you need to be the perfect man.
Wait, you don't know
So,
this eye tracking video that I'm gonna...
So, just so you know, there's this thing called an eye tracker.
Oh no, did you get an eye tracker?
No, I did not get an eye tracker.
Oh, thank God.
But just to explain, there's like a little like white blob that you'll see on the screen, and that's the not on my screen, but on this video. There's this
it's what Pewds is.
It's what
the Greek is looking at.
Yeah, it's what they're looking at.
Gonna watch. Not only am I not gonna look at anything
he messes up and he's
sexual,
like, frick!
I'm gonna complete the whole eye tracking challenge
represent
without
all
looking
men.
at a single butt
Bleh.
or a single boob. This eye tracking challenge is gonna be the easiest challenge of my life, and I will prove to all the other men in chat that we don't need to look at boobs. We can look at people for who they are. Me, Greek God X, I will represent all men in the chat, and I will not look at a single boob, and I will not look at a single butt in this video. Let's go! Fuck!
Fuck!
Let's go! Fuck!
That's epic. Yes, it is. Fuck! Okay. So hello, epic. Good to see you. That's epic. Okay.
Bro, his freaking name is epic.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic. Oh no, he posted a copyright sound. He's posting copyright sounds. He posted Cash Overtime with the free app to make audio visualizers.
Dude, this isn't a love request stream. Just so you know, I am ChaosBot. Just so you know, this isn't a love request stream, so don't go requesting GD levels. And hentai? Oh, why did you put it in before it? In hentai. Yes. Bro, moment.
I'll be right back.
Okay. The image is spoiled, that lucky. No, seriously, look. It's actually not. I've been gnomed. Isn't it you get demonetized? That's in hentai. Oh, it's a hentai ID. Of course it is. Thank you for telling me. I'm gonna launch GD for a second, to be honest. It's gamer boys. When did you go outside? Please shut up, GD. It's literally 10 at night. I'm not going outside. It's fucking weird. Here's this. Had to re-upload. There's a more funnier version. Yes, more funnier. Good language there. Re-upload.
Saved.
Yeah. My dog at 3 AM be like, yeah. Yes. Being the boys. Oh my god, please. No! I'm so sad that nobody's done this. They don't have Photoshop. So yeah, just MS Paint. Jesus. It's so simple. Okay, guys. Somebody. I might upload this as a video later. Okay, it's really fucking laggy at full screen. Help. Okay, but seriously. Somebody has to make this. I mean... Here, I'm gonna send it to, bro moment. I'm a weeb. Bro, I'm gonna send it to bro moment. By the way, for your information, the original clip was this, which is even better, honestly. Wait, what? That's not... Okay, there it is. That's weird. That was great. The point is, it's supposed to say porn. And it really just says porn. 5 a.m. SMH. I'm going to sleep. Oh, it's 5 a.m. Oh my god. Okay. Well, good night, I guess. Pig purr. What should I do now? Leave. Actually, don't leave, please. Watching stream. Make a video of wall get cancer. What? Check your Discord. Check your Discord. Yes, indeed, for a moment. Do you love cheese? No. Tutorials. Make music. It's music time.
You can use Scratch to make music.
Oh,
Create
wow,
a song,
that's
make a beat, or
Yes.
anything else you can imagine. Make a beat,
New meme
or
format.
anything else. Make a beat,
Yes.
like a weird, like...
create a song, make a beat,
Okay, here's something.
or anything else you can imagine.
What is that you're doing?
For a moment.
To get started,
Jesus
pick a
Christ.
sprite. I'll pick the saxophone.
I'll pick the saxophone.
Is this the Scratch
let's make it
like tutorial to make music?
Yes.
I'll make the saxophone play a sound.
Why
when
are
I
they
click
trying
it.
so hard with these horrible sprites?
Yeah. Yes, the quality.
Click the green arrow to see this code again, and explore what else you might add to your project.
Click the arrow. That's an arrow? Clearly it's a play button. You bro moment.
Yes.
Tutorial time. Use arrow keys.
Want to move your character using arrow keys?
No.
To move the character up, use change Y. To make it move down, use a negative number.
Sad number.
To control with an arrow key, add a Win key press block. I'll pick the up arrow for
Oh, I
moving
like
up.
the re-uploaded version of Tyler
And-
One Dying. It's got motion tracking.
Yes.
Down arrow for moving down.
Do you have cheese? You have been gnomed. Okay.
To go to the right, I'll use
Oh
change
wait, I
X.
got him.
To move it left,
Make a chase game. Glide around.
With glide blocks, you can move your character from place to place. Place your sprite.
Oh no. Okay, thanks. God, I can't listen to that. It's so terrifying. Bruh. Dude, it's bat time.
Yes, Epic, he got heckin' gnomed.
It's fish bat time.
Why is a bat underwater?
Oh wait, you should you should find a sound effect of
Oh,
somebody
listen to that.
slapping someone across the face with a fish.
And why are you saying ow?
And do what with it?
Turn it into a scream.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Oh, listen to that. Okay, thanks.
Epic Memer Man friended you on Discord.
Did. Oh, Adriel, send another thing.
I just farted in a trash can. LMAO!
Ow. I did look in Discord, you bro.
Green Hill?
What?
What did the Epic Gamer send you?
He sent for a moment. Also, dude, look in Discord, actually. You look in Discord.
Alright, I'm looking.
Do you see it?
The new meme format?
Yes, put something there.
Alright, I got you.
Why did I go into the channel? Regret for bruh. Bruh. Man ass. Welcomes and what? Welcome. Welcome. What is this? This is my favorite.
Hey guys, what's up? And we're back with another video.
It's my favorite.
Like your boss did 565, and we should actually go to bed so you guys can rest.
Can I join your Discord server? Yeah, sure. I believe the invite is in the description. Is he in creative? I can't even tell. The invite is expired. Well, goddammit.
Jet, I already told you that. You didn't replace it?
I did, I swear.
Did you make it an infinite?
Expire after never. Number of users, no limit.
There you go, Jet.
Copy. Okay, I'll put it in chat. And I'll replace it here. Oh, it makes sense that...
Hamburger.
E has joined the battle, but oh my god, there's a Fortnite reference in this fucking... Oh my god. There's a Fortnite reference in Discord. Configure. Oh, that's epic. Cobblestone stairs.
Cobblestone stairs.
I've literally made... Wait. Okay, so 54 divided by 2. I'm an idiot. 27. I've made 27 Scream sound effects now. Actually... Bruh.
You're breathtaking.
Man-ass.
Hamburger.
Okay, I'm probably gonna end the stream now. I farted in a bag of chips. What do I do? You man-ass. That's what you do. Well, I'm gonna eat cabbage.
You're eating cabbage. That's nice.
Well, I'm gonna end the stream. I'm stuck on me. So I'm gonna end the strict clown. No. The worst emoji ever. Yeah, I'm gonna... Please, why? What else do we have to do, really? There's, like, nothing we're doing right now. Bye. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna end the stream. Good night. Yeah, I'm just tired. It's literally only 11. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Okay, bye.